I remember the first time his lips touched mine. It was in the back of his car, parked under the shadow of an old oak tree just outside the gym where we had first noticed each other. The air was hot, humid, and thick with the smell of sweat and temptation. His hands were firm against my waist, pulling me closer, while my mind screamed at me to stop. But my body betrayed me. I let him kiss me again, harder this time, my wedding ring pressed painfully between us as if to remind me of everything I was risking. I could feel my pulse racing in places I had not felt alive in years. I was a married woman, a mother, a wife to a good man who trusted me completely. Yet in that moment, I was a woman starving for passion, for the kind of fire that had been missing from my life for far too long. That kiss was not just a kiss. It was the beginning of a chain reaction that threatened to burn down everything I had built. Before I dive deeper into this story, let me take a moment to appreciate you, my audience. Thank you so much to all my new and returning viewers who come here for these powerful and raw life stories. Your support means the world to me. If you have not yet subscribed, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button, because that is the fuel and energy that keeps this channel alive. And please, do not just listen quietly. Engage, share your thoughts, and leave a comment right after this intro. Your voices matter, and I always love hearing them. Now, back to the story. My name is Claire. I am an American woman in my mid-30s. From the outside, my life looked perfect. I lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Virginia with my husband, Mark, and our 2 children. Mark was the kind of man every woman is supposed to want. Loyal, hardworking, gentle, and completely devoted to his family. He came home every night at 6, kissed me on the cheek, tucked the kids into bed, and never forgot to tell me that he loved me. But here is the truth that nobody talks about. A marriage can be steady, safe, and secure, and still leave parts of you starving. Mark gave me stability, but he did not ignite the fire inside me anymore. Our intimacy had grown routine. Our conversations had become predictable. And although I loved him, I began to feel invisible, like a housewife who existed only to manage meals, chores, and children's schedules. That was when I met Ryan. Ryan was everything Mark was not. He was bold, confident, and dangerously charming. He worked as a personal trainer at the local gym, where I had signed up to shake off the weight of routine. The first time I noticed him, he was spotting a client, his strong arms flexing as he lifted the bar. His eyes caught mine across the room, and he smiled in a way that felt like a secret invitation. At first, it was innocent. Small talk at the treadmill. Casual jokes when I struggled through sets. But little by little, the conversations stretched longer. He remembered details about me, details my husband no longer asked about. He noticed when I changed my hair, when I wore a new perfume, when I looked tired. He made me feel seen again, like a woman and not just a wife. One evening, after my workout, he offered to walk me to my car. The gym parking lot was half empty, the sun already down, the air heavy with summer heat. I should have said goodbye, should have driven home to my husband. But instead, I lingered. We talked and laughed until silence settled between us, a silence that carried weight. He leaned closer, his voice low. I should not say this, but I think about you more than I should. My heart hammered in my chest. I whispered back, you should not. But I did not step away. That was when he kissed me, soft at first, then urgent. My ring scraped against the steering wheel as I held on, torn between desire and guilt. When it ended, I sat in my car, shaking, unable to believe what I had just allowed. I knew this was a line I could never uncross. I drove home that night in silence, my lips still tingling, my thoughts spinning in chaos. Mark was at the kitchen table, helping our daughter with homework. He looked up and smiled, completely unaware that my heart carried a secret now, a dangerous secret that could shatter his world. For days after, I told myself it was a mistake, that it would not happen again. But Ryan had awakened something inside me, something hungry and reckless. His texts began to fill my phone. Simple messages at first, good morning, you looked beautiful today. But soon, they turned into late-night confessions, words filled with heat and longing. I tried to resist. I tried to delete them. But the truth was, I wanted more. I wanted to feel alive again, to feel desired. And every time my phone lit up with his name, my resolve grew weaker. A week later, I found myself meeting him again. This time, I did not resist. This time, I let his hands explore the places my husband had long forgotten. The guilt was heavy, but the fire was stronger. And as I lay there after, breathless and trembling, I knew I had crossed into dangerous territory. This was no longer a single mistake. This was an affair. And it was only the beginning. Every secret begins as a whisper, but mine grew into a roar that echoed in every corner of my life. The more I tried to hide it, the louder it became. Ryan and I had crossed the line, and now I lived in two worlds. At home, I was Mark's wife, cooking dinners, folding laundry, helping the kids with homework, smiling across the table as if nothing had changed. But inside, I was burning. I thought of Ryan constantly. I felt his touch long after it was gone, his voice haunting me even as I kissed my children goodnight. The lies began small. A gym session that ran longer than usual. A quick stop at the grocery store that stretched into hours. Mark never questioned me. Why would he? I was the woman who had never given him a reason to doubt. But with each excuse, the guilt clawed deeper. Ryan, on the other hand, wanted more. He thrived on risk, on pushing boundaries. He started sending me messages in the middle of the night, words that made me blush and tremble beneath the sheets while Mark slept peacefully beside me. He pushed me to meet him in secret places. Hotel rooms. His apartment. Even once in the back room of the gym when the lights were dim and no one was around. Each encounter was fire. Every kiss was a storm I could not resist. He touched me in ways that reminded me I was alive, desired, not just a wife managing routines. I told myself it was passion, that I deserved to feel this again. But each time, when it ended, I carried a new layer of shame home with me. One evening, after a workout, I walked out of the gym and nearly froze in my tracks. Mark's truck was parked outside. He leaned against it, smiling as he waved. My stomach dropped. He had surprised me, saying he thought it would be nice to pick me up for dinner. Ryan was still inside. My body tensed, terrified he would walk out at any second. I forced a smile, hugged Mark quickly, and prayed Ryan would not appear. That night at dinner, I barely tasted the food. My eyes darted around, my nerves frayed, every second waiting for the world to collapse. But it did not. Not then. Instead, it collapsed in smaller ways. I began to notice Mark looking at me differently. He never said anything, but I caught the way his eyes lingered when I picked up my phone too quickly. He noticed when I smiled at my messages more often than at him. He noticed when my excuses grew thinner, my tone more defensive. He never confronted me, but the silence between us thickened. The truth is, guilt changes a person. It seeps into your voice, your touch, even your sleep. I started to pull away from him without realizing it. The intimacy in our bedroom faded further, not because he stopped trying, but because I was living in two worlds and giving myself to another man. Ryan grew bolder, and with him, so did my recklessness. He would slide his hand across my thigh while we sat in his car, parked just streets away from my house. He would call me during family dinners, and I would rush to the bathroom, whispering lies into the phone while my children laughed at the table with their father. I lived on edge, addicted to the thrill, terrified of the consequences. Then came the night that nearly ended it all. It was a Friday, and Mark had taken the kids to visit his parents for the weekend. I told him I needed to stay behind because of a work project. In reality, I had planned a night with Ryan. We checked into a small hotel on the outskirts of town, a place where no one would recognize us. For hours, we drowned in each other, reckless and wild, my wedding vows buried beneath sheets of betrayal. But when I finally reached for my phone, I saw the messages. Dozens of them. Missed calls. From Mark. My blood ran cold. I answered, my voice shaking. He asked if I was all right. He said he had been worried because I had not picked up for hours. I stumbled through a lie about being too focused on my project. He believed me, or at least pretended to. But that night, when Ryan fell asleep beside me, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, consumed by the weight of what I was doing. I was risking more than my marriage. I was risking my children's stability, my husband's trust, the very foundation of the life I had built. All for a man who offered me fire but not a future. The next morning, Mark returned earlier than expected. He wrapped his arms around me, kissed me, and whispered, "I missed you." I could barely look him in the eyes. In that moment, for the first time, I wondered if I was in control of this affair, or if it was controlling me. I told myself I could stop whenever I wanted. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was addicted to Ryan, addicted to the escape, addicted to the way he made me feel like a woman again. And that addiction was about to cost me everything. Secrets do not stay buried forever. Mine was already clawing its way to the surface, and the moment of truth came on a night I will never forget. It began with Mark's silence. He had grown more distant, his eyes sharper, his questions subtle but cutting. Late again, he would ask, or, who was on the phone? I brushed them off with practiced lies, but his stare lingered long after the words faded. Then, one evening, I returned from meeting Ryan at his apartment. My hair was messy, my blouse slightly wrinkled, my heart pounding with the thrill of what I had just done. But when I walked into our kitchen, Mark was sitting at the table, his phone in his hand, his jaw tight. He looked at me, not with anger at first, but with devastation. He held up my phone bill, scrolling through the endless late-night calls and texts to a number he had traced back to Ryan. "Who is he?" His voice was low, trembling, but it carried a weight that froze me. I opened my mouth, ready to lie, but no words came. My silence was louder than any confession. Tears welled in his eyes as he whispered, "I knew it. I knew I was losing you." The room spun. My knees buckled. I dropped into the chair across from him, burying my face in my hands, sobbing uncontrollably. "Mark, I am so sorry," I choked out. "I never meant to hurt you. I do not even know how it went this far." But he did not comfort me. He stood, his hands shaking, pacing the kitchen like a man whose world had just been set on fire. "You gave yourself to him. You gave him what was supposed to be mine. Do you have any idea what you have done to us? To our children?" His words cut deeper than any blade. He was right. I had not just betrayed him. I had betrayed our family, our vows, the very foundation of everything we had built together. The days that followed were a blur of pain. Mark moved into the guest room. He barely spoke to me, except about the children. The house was heavy with silence, broken only by the sound of my sobbing behind closed doors. Ryan kept calling, begging me not to end things, telling me I deserved passion, that Mark would never understand me the way he did. But in the wreckage of my marriage, Ryan's words felt empty. What I craved was not his fire anymore. It was Mark's forgiveness. It was my family back. One night, Mark finally sat across from me again. His face was tired, his eyes bloodshot from nights without sleep. He asked me one question that shattered me completely. Was it worth it? I shook my head violently, tears streaming down my face. No. No, Mark. It was not worth losing you. It was not worth hurting our children. It was not worth destroying our life. He closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and for a moment I thought he would walk away for good. But then, to my shock, his voice softened. "I hate what you did. I hate that you let another man touch you. But I love you more than I hate this. And I cannot let our marriage die without a fight." Those words broke me in a different way. He was offering me something I did not deserve, mercy. Rebuilding was not easy. Trust was shattered, and every step forward felt fragile. Mark wanted complete honesty. I gave him access to my phone, my whereabouts, everything. I cut Ryan off completely, blocking him, deleting every trace. The withdrawal was brutal, but the shame of losing my husband's trust was far worse. We went to counseling. We cried in those sessions more than I thought possible. We screamed, too. The pain was raw, but slowly, piece by piece, we began to rebuild. I had to confront not just my betrayal, but the emptiness that had made me seek Ryan in the first place. And Mark had to confront his silence, the distance that had grown between us before Ryan ever entered the picture. Months later, one night in our bedroom, Mark finally touched me again. It was not wild or passionate like with Ryan. It was tender, hesitant, almost fragile. But it was real. It was love. And for the first time in a long time, I felt home again. Looking back, I know the affair risked more than just my marriage. It risked my children's stability, my husband's heart, and my own soul. I came close to losing everything. But somehow, in the ashes of betrayal, forgiveness grew. I do not tell this story with pride. I tell it with humility, with the hope that someone listening will see the danger of chasing fire outside their vows. Passion can blind you, but true love, the kind that endures betrayal, survives heartbreak, and chooses forgiveness. That is the love worth fighting for. Because I nearly lost it all. And I will never risk it again.